All right. So just to refresh our memories, we got footage, stuck some music to it, and then just kind of cut from one thing to another. And we didn't try to end the music in any decent way. So that's what I've got. And these are all just smashed cut together. The way they are just smashed cuts. We cut from one to another and keep rolling on through. So all of our transitions in Adobe Premiere can be found under the effects panel. And actually within the workspace we've been in, it should be on the right-hand side. But if you don't have the effects panel, go up to the menu, to Window, and select the effects panel to do this. So there are a lot of different effects and whatnot in Premiere. Actually, there's not as many in Premiere as there are in After Effects, but the process is the same. If you know what you want to do, use the search bar. So if I want to look for transitions, I've got my effects panel here. If I just type transitions, it'll filter it out and give me a lot of different options here. But before I do that, I'm going to do the simplest one that we can do in Premiere. So I'm just going to slide this over to the side. If we go down here to our timeline and look at right where the clips change, if I put the cursor right over top of that break, actually, let me make that a little bit bigger so we can see it easier. Wrong. There we go. So I'm going to put my cursor right over top of the change. Oops, sorry, right here. And if I right click, I can apply a default transition. And if I click right on the center spot, it's going to drop this cross dissolve fade over top of it. So now when I play across that, I get a nice cross dissolve happen. I can change how long that lasts by stretching it out or closing it up. So I can make it either happen really quick or I can drag it out over a longer period. One of the two, just by hovering over the edge of it and moving it in and out. Whenever you add a crossfade or a standard default, it actually also adds to the audio that you have. Like these two clips, the first one and the second one also had their own audio tracks. It'll add a power curve to blend the audio. So my second clip doesn't actually have any audio, it's a flat line. But if there was audio in the second one, it would do that. It would blend those two pieces of audio as well with a power curve. And a basic cross dissolve is really as simple as that. So one of the things that does happen though, and I'll go to the second one here. So if I'm going to go ahead and add a cross dissolve or apply a default transition. Let's do it again. Well, I can't do it on purpose, but I'd certainly do it if I didn't want to do it. All right. We'll start with it here. What happens a lot of times, sometimes, I'd venture to say a lot of times, just not today. Whenever you do that, the entire transition ends up over top of one cut or the other. And If that's not your intent, then you can always, like when I select that dissolve up here in my effect controls, this changes, and there's a drop down here that says right now it starts at the cut. If I change that to center at the cut, that'll center it across both clips. If I change it to end at the cut, it'll change it to only affect the first clip. So if I do that, and it's only going to affect the first clip, let's see what we get. So it does more, it's less of a cross, it's not a cross dissolve, but rather just a straight dissolve. It dissolves one into the other. The difference between the two, a cross dissolve will actually blend the two clips together at the same time, whereas a standard dissolve will simply, in this case, the clip of the little beach buggy, it'll actually blend just that clip over top of the next clip. So only one of them actually fades, if that makes sense. In regular dissolve, only one clip dissolves over top of another, but in a crossfade, they both fade equally over top of each other. And I can also pull it across. Actually, this is new. You didn't used to be able just to pull those across for some odd reason. Now you can, which is nifty. So that's how we apply cross dissolves between our video clips. And then, so that's setting up a dissolve, a cross dissolve. So what if I want to try a different transition though? After Effects, or Premiere, like I said, has a bunch of different options here, which I've already brought up in the effects panel. So if these are my audio transitions. I'm going to close those. I just want the video transitions. So there's all sorts of different dissolves that it's got. And if you want to try one, simply pick it, like I'm going to dip to white. Let's grab that. I'm going to drag it on top of this cross transition, and it'll replace it. So here's the effect of that. It actually dips to white as it makes the transition. Dip to black is obviously going to do, dips it to black. But in order to change these transitions, all you really got to do is find the one you want and drag it from one end to the other. See what a morph cut does. And sometimes these take a little bit of time to, the morph cut, for instance. We may not even get a preview of that one. It's actually trying to morph one video into the other. Ah, there we go. So if I select that, what kind of settings does it have? Because that was really kind of ugly. Show actual sources. Yeah. I wasn't really liking that too much. But some of these do kind of take a little bit of time for it to figure out. Yeah, not a fan of that one. So you get the film dissolve. See what that does. No. Some of them are kind of hard to figure, but So we've got immersive video, VR, light leaks. Let's try that. An interesting kind of a transition thing. My advice with transitions is, if you have too many different transitions going on, your video overall kind of starts to get feeling a little hokey. My recommendation is either pick one transition that you like to use between video clips or a couple that are similar to sort of mix those up and vary them a little bit. But I wouldn't go crazy with 12 different transition types, all totally different throughout a minute-long video. Mobius zoom. You really just got to kind of try the different effects and see what it does. That's kind of neat. But either way, I like that one even better. So you can kind of cross that way. I am going to, let's change this one too. So there's a lot of transitions. You just got to, to know what they do, you just got to kind of try to use them. You wouldn't have the red giant stuff. But an iris, let's toss an iris round here and see what that does. Like you'd expect. But iris cuts tend to be kind of a little on the hokey side if you just do them from the center. But if we select that cut and go over here and take a look at our effect controls, we see here's clip A and here's clip B. And there's a little center point in the middle of A. We can move that to move the location of that iris. Maybe it's better to actually do it from here, where the key is. So you can move the center point of that iris. There's different shapes available. Border width, color, anti-aliasing, show actual source. Oh, the show actual sources is just really for the preview. But let's see what border width does. Let's crank that up. Puts a border on it. So anti-aliasing just kind of softens that edge as it moves. So you can kind of play with, page peel. A lot of these do kind of what you expect them to do. So, short of without going through all of them, you can kind of try them out, see what they do. A slide, push, wipes. All sorts of different options to go between them. See what cross zoom does. Cross zoom is actually kind of nice. So those are different kinds of transitions that are available in Premiere. You can recreate a lot of those manually too by adjusting opacity on clips, but The transitions themselves do a pretty nice job and make it pretty convenient, so why not use them? The one thing I do want to look at is, so on my video, I faded mine to black, but I think rather than doing the fade to black, I should be able to just do a dip to black right here on the very end. So rather than adjusting transparency there, we can just toss that right on the end, fade to black. I can probably even make this, so if I do that, yeah, maybe I don't want to do that. We can do that there. I could change my out point, maybe down to here somewhere. I mean, I really can't just arbitrarily decide where to end my video, but if I want to make sure my video fades off to black and then I've got some room to bring in a logo, maybe something like that, we can do that. The dip to white, again, same thing. And I would need a white graphic after that to carry that through. And you could fade in that exact same way instead of, you can grab our, maybe it should be, no, we would probably actually have to fade in, use our opacity to fade in at the beginning, but, so we've got those kinds of transitions available to us. Any questions about that? I mean, it's pretty simple. Just remember, you can always, if you just, right click right at that break, apply default transition, there's very few options. And then select one from the effects menu that you like and drop it in there. I don't know what spherical word is. That's actually kind of a nice cut for that. It spins right into the circular shape of that interstate. Oh, that's right. I faded in my... So that starts to add a little bit of life to the transitions and cuts between our video. Yep. So if there aren't any questions, I'll move on to masking, which I kind of wanted to do real quick tonight too, because this is a very short kind of a thing, so masking I think will go along with it. Masking is another good good technique to know and to do. I do masking a lot more in After Effects than I do Premiere, but we can do masking. Actually, we'll just go through one way of doing masking real quick. So I'm actually I'll save that. I'm gonna create a new project. And I have two, I think, additional video clips I can drop in here. Downloads, there we go. Nope, not those. Back to Premiere. And my social media, these two. All right, I'm going to bring these into my project panel. All right, so let's see which is which. Yep, that'll be nice and easy. All right, I'm just going to make a sequence from this clip. New sequence from clip. All right. And here it rolls right along. So before I do too much here, I'm actually going to also add I'm going to add a color mat object to my element here. And I'll just pick like a tannish color of some kind. And here's my color mat. I'm just going to, so if I drop it here, basically that's just it gives me a color background, solid color background. And I'm actually going to drop this below. We'll pull my basketball up on top, put my color map on the bottom, stretch that out, pull my rolling basketball down. So if I want to mask this basketball, I'm going to do it this way. Say I want this basketball masked out so it's rolling across my tan background. I don't want all the background stuff in it. If I go over to my effect controls with my clip selected, the opacity panel, while yes, I can change my opacity like this, I can also add a mask with either the pen tool, 4-point polygon, or a circle. So I'm going to use a circle on this. And it's going to drop a circle right in there, and it masks out just that area. So I can pull that around. And I'm just going to size this down to my basketball. And I picked this image because to do anything different would be far too complicated and time consuming. So, but I can mask that out pretty easily that way. The only problem with that is when the ball moves, it leaves the mask, right? So, oh Lord, where did I start? Right there. All right. So if I click off of that, I've got my basketball masked out. Now before I go too far, I do want to take a look here at the mask options panel, and I can feather the mask, change the mask's opacity, as well as expand the mask. So if I got my mask too small, say it's a little too tight, I could always go to the mask expansion, open that up, and I can expand the mask, or I can contract the mask with that. I don't really need either of those, so I'll put that back to 0. Opacity just simply makes it transparent. And then the mask feathering will give me a soft edge on my mask. So, depending on what you're masking out, the soft edge usually isn't a bad idea. Nothing's hardly ever perfectly crisp, you know. especially in video when things are moving, we get motion blur and that kind of thing. So, which is kind of nice in one way because a lot of times that allows, it's forgiving if we're not accurate with our mask, especially when we're rotoing with it to follow an object. Those are, that's a very tedious process. So if you're not perfect, a bit of a feather will usually mask, bad choice of words, will usually hide the fact that you're not spot on, But I'm actually going to take this and let's roll this all the way back to the beginning. And then grab my mask path and move it. Oh, and the size even changes. Yeek. Okay, well, that's what we got then, and that's what we're going to deal with. So we can make this mask, this path, follow the ball. Let's see if I get this right the first time or not. So I can kind of keyframe this, and if I follow this along, actually, I don't think I should have keyframed it. Let's try that again. There's our mask. Let's try roll this back. Keyframe it. Then I'm going to roll forward, do about 10 seconds. Select my mask again, and I'm going to move it to follow the ball. And need to adjust it just a little bit. So now, as that rolls, it'll follow along with it. And it kind of gets ahead of it. The thing about masking video is it's a tedious process, but it's like anything else. In order to get the result you want, sometimes you got to do the work to get it. So I picked this ball because I knew it would be easier to do, but still kind of show what you need to be able to accomplish. So I always try, whenever I mask anything like this, I start off with hitting, like, I was probably actually a little early there, but maybe I'll come over to, if I come to the end, I can go ahead and grab this, slide it over, and I'm setting keyframes at the extremes, but you can see it doesn't match up all the way through. So in order to combat that, I'm just gonna, so let's see, if I scroll through this, maybe I want to make sure it matches up here. Pull it on through. Gets kind of far away there. So maybe I set a keyframe. Can I set a keyframe in there? Yeah. Actually, let's so we're good there. Then we get kind of off here. So let's pull that over there. So I'm good until about here. I'll make that adjustment. And let's see. And honestly, it is really just about doing that. It's scrubbing through your timeline, making your adjustments. To get it to match up all the way through. Actually, this is more a change in the width of the mask for some odd reason. But as I play through that, then my mask is following the ball. And like I said, this is a simple example, but you can do the same thing with people moving their arms around and stuff. It's just you've got, in which case you'd use a pen tool, outline your subject, and then using that same process. I mean, it's the same process I use for rotomasking or for rotoscoping in After Effects. Outline the subject at the beginning, scroll ahead to the end, move your mask to follow, make the adjustments to the points, and then wherever they get out of sync in between, you kind of move your playhead there, you make your adjustments. This back and forth took, 5 minutes maybe? On a simple basketball, rolling across the ground, Rotoscoping a person could take several hours, It's time consuming, but again, it's time consuming, but if you have the need to allow type to pass behind somebody, it's kind of what you need to do, So, but like I said, things can be, so for instance, let's say, so I've masked this, and I tried to be as close as I could on everything. But I'm going to actually duplicate this. Let's select that. Let's duplicate. Actually, no. I'll just grab the ball again, which is 8-3. So I'm just going to grab this ball again, bring it in here, make sure I line it up. This is the one I masked. This is the one that's not. So if I turn this bottom one, so the top one is the one that I did my mask on. I'm going to slide that up, and I'm going to grab my type tool. Play ball. I need a different typeface than that, because that's terrible. My text. Let's change this to Beavis. No, abolition will work. So I'll just place type in there, then pull it down below. So now I get, with my two pieces of video, I've masked the ball. I put a duplicate of that video without a mask at the very end. And what's kind of nice about that composition, doing that kind of thing, is I don't have to be spot on with it, and it would probably make sense. Probably makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, my mask, you can kind of see there, when I zoom in on it, my mask isn't very good right about that point. I should probably take a look at that again. But, yeah, so I got some fixing to do on my mask. I didn't do very good. But I could let's see. This is the one I masked. Here's my mask. I could feather that edge a bit. Maybe hide it. Maybe not. I could try expanding it a little bit, since I kind of messed it up. It's a little bit better, but I'm still out. So I need to refine my mask, obviously. It's not quite on mark, but that's the way we would go about a simple kind of a graphic like that. Take this. Boom. Type a little bit or something. So that's the primary way we would mask. There is another way to use a shape as a mask, but this is kind of the, I mean, it's got really limited use, so but we can definitely rotoscope that way. I'd spend another 30 minutes with this, probably make sure that my path matched up really well. If I zoom in so that I can see what I've really got. But you kind of get the idea, I think, as to how we're doing that. Oops. Back to 0. So in this spot, we're just off. And obviously the bottom's not as important as the top is, but we can also use on this mask, if you notice there's this little widget thing hanging off the top corner of it. You can also use these two little widgets to sort of expand and feather a little bit as you go. This ball moves really weird. But as you can see, it's a little time consuming, so it's always better the fewer keyframes you can put in, but you got to put in enough to get the job done. So I probably actually have it a little bit too many in now. I think if I look at my I'm getting a lot right in through this area that's kind of messing it up. I was okay for a while. that one. Oh, that actually might have. So. Anyway. I feel like I'm beating this to death now. But that's the general process. You're just moving points over time to match. When I'm further away, obviously, it looks better than when I'm up close. Any questions on masking? Anything to see again? I think when we get to our Premiere exercise, or our Premiere assignment, regular project, I think I'm going to require at least one item be masked in some form or fashion. It's not only good for Premiere, but process is very similar in After Effects, so another one of those things is just kind of good to make sure you got. Okay. All right. So that's masking.